pen and paper, the analog tools of a writer. A bonus episode of Omakase. Hi there. The name's Max, also known as M. Kieran. And every month, I ask my patrons to pick a topic out of 3. I put up a poll, and I make a workshop based on the topic they decided on. This month, I am going to be talking about my experience with the analog tools of a writer. Pen, paper, and a few miscellaneous little things to help you write. The tone of this podcast is going to be pretty conversational. Treat it as though I'm sitting across the table from you. We're at a coffee shop, and we're just talking about the tools that help us write. Because, well, consider this the lesson before the lesson. At the end of this video, I want you not only to know a little bit more about paper and pen and some miscellaneous tools to help you write, but I also want you to remember to keep in your mind a particular idea. Whenever you go into a new endeavor, whether it is writing, whether it is relationships, whether it is a new job, find the tools that allow you to be the most successful at it. Sometimes those tools are looking for advice. Sometimes those tools are physical, tangible tools, like pen and paper. Why would you want to be writing by hand, though? That's a question that I can imagine someone asking. In this day and age, a lot of writers write on their computers. They type it up, sometimes on their phones, sometimes on their laptops, on their tablets. They create their book, their stories, digitally. Why bother doing it by hand? Well, I think that every writer is different. I have friends who write all their novels by hand, and sometimes you have to try out a new thing. For those of you who follow my podcast and have been following the channel forever, know that the end of last year and the beginning of this year was really hard on me, and it was really hard on my writing. And as someone who swore by typing, I wasn't able to get back into writing. I would just backspace into infinity. And I decided to go back to writing by hand as a way to help ease myself back into the writing. And it helped. It helped a lot. My anxiety was really bad, but being able to tangibly feel the page, the resource that it was, 31 lines for me to write on, and the pen and having the words there physically in front of me, and the page that itself was a resource that I could not waste. That helped a lot. And I'm not saying it'll be the thing that helps you and solves your problems, but like I say always, life is too darn short for you to make all the mistakes. So learn the lessons from other people. And if you're struggling with writing, if typing is just not working for you, writing by hand might just be the thing that helps you. I wrote 5 novels by hand before I returned to typing as I am right now. It helped a lot. If you're interested in doing a journey like this, or you just want to know the pens that I use and the paper that I prefer, then tag along. Let's pretend we're at the coffee shop, and you're asking me, Max, what pens do you use to write? What's your favorite pen? What do you recommend to someone getting into things? And what about those fancy fountain pens? Are they really as good as everyone says they are? Even if they are really, really, really pricey. Listen, I'm not made of money. You're probably not either. So when I went into the whole let's write by hand thing, I looked for the most cost-effective resources, because again, I'm not made of money. And I did a lot of research. There are countless pen and paper review blogs out there on the internet, and I did a lot of digging around. Back in the day, my favorite pens were the G2 Pilot and the Pentel Energel. I really liked both of those. They felt really comfortable, and I would just steal tons of them from work. So part of it might be how easy it was to procure them, but I really enjoyed them. But when I wanted to start writing by hand, I decided to look over my resources, and I thought, okay, why not give these fountain pens a try? I did a lot of research, I did a lot of digging around. I found that most quotation fingers, standard fountain pens were really expensive. Like too expensive. So during my research, I stumbled upon several options for my price range. And among them, I decided to try a few. And I ended up liking one of them the most. And that pen is a simple fountain pen designed to help people learn how to write with a fountain pen. It is comfortable, it's not bulky, and its price point is really accessible. The place that I get it at asks $11 for it, and the name of that pen is the Pilot Kakuno. 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 It's a Japanese pen, and I never understood, because everybody talks about fountain pens this way, and I never got it until I felt it, but writing with a fountain pen feels very light. There's hardly any pressure as you do with a regular, roller pen. I always found that if I used the other pens, I would apply, or I would find myself applying too much pressure on the pen and the paper in order to get the ink flowing. And writing with a fountain pen, and I hate to just say the thing that everyone says, but the description is perfectly accurate. The tip of the pen glides. And the reason why it feels so satisfying, and the reason why there is hardly any pressure that you have to apply, and why there is very little friction between the point of the pen and the paper, is because the smallest amount of pressure will cause the nibs to the very point of the pen to open up and release the ink. And because it requires so very, very little pressure, you can just lightly write the word and whatever it is you're doing and move from word to word, little by little, forming sentences. It's very swift, and I really grew to like it. And to take a step back, I'm not saying fountain pens are the best pens. I'm saying, because again, we're at the coffee shop, you're asking me what I think. I really learned to enjoy writing with a fountain pen. And again, the investment of $11 for a pen that feels very comfortable, it's very light, and I wrote 5 novels with, and I did a lot of bullet journaling with. That's my recommendation right there. What's my favorite pen? What's the one that I used to write my notes for this podcast? It is the Pilot Kakuno. It's a Japanese pen, and you may be wondering, well, that should make it really expensive. And some places will try to gouge you, basically, because it's basically an import. But the website that I use, I don't know how the shipping is internationally. It's an American-based website. I was gonna say distribution center, but that's not the correct word. This website's distribution center is really close to where I live, so I'm extra biased because I'm like, the basic shipping gets the package at my doorstep within like a day or two. The website is jetpens.com. I really love those guys, and they sell the Kakuno for $11. $11, and the ink is also relatively accessible. Which brings me on to the subject of, well, Max, let's say I try out pens. What about the next big question, though? Cartridges or a bottle of ink? Because I know what you're thinking. And if you're unfamiliar with how fountain pens have evolved over the last 200 years, you'll be thinking to yourselves, Max, it's gonna take me forever to write this paper. I'm gonna have to dip the pen in the bottle of ink every 3 sentences like I'm writing the Declaration of Independence. Max, I can't do this. And I say, it's okay. Technology has advanced. Through the course of writing those 5 novels that I wrote by hand, I tried both methods. I had a bottle of ink that I purchased at my local arts and supply stores, like an actual ink for pens. You don't want to just buy any kind of ink. And I had a little receiver in my pen that allowed me to just basically suck the ink out of the bottle. If I must be Crimson, the cute element of, you know, doing that thing where I'm like, oh yeah, I'm manually adding ink back into the pen. That wore off really quickly. I think like halfway through the first novel, I'm like, this is a little messy. I got really good at it. I got so good at the point where like I wouldn't have any stain in my any ink staining my hands, but it's still, I found it very time intensive. And I found that by the time I was almost done with the first bottle of ink, that getting the very last of the ink was really hard. I began working with or using a bottle of ink for my fountain pen, mostly because I thought it would be very very cost effective. I thought, well, if the fountain pen can hold this much ink, liquid ink, in milliliters, and the bottle of ink has this many milliliters, then I assume I can get these many refills. And I ended up switching to cartridges, mostly out of convenience, and also I found a brand of compatible cartridges with my Kakuno that were really, really, really well priced. We're talking about like cents per cartridge. So I ended up switching to cartridges. I know. Someone out there, the purest among you, have already proclaimed that I am only but a poser, standing here wielding my really, really easy, affordable fountain pen and claiming that I know anything of what I'm talking about. But again, back at the coffee shop, you're asking me what I do, what I use. I own 2 Kakuno pens. That's how much I liked it. I didn't buy a second Kakuno pen because the first one broke. That first one, which wrote about 3 novels on its own, that one is still fine. That one is still perfectly fine. I bought another one because I wanted another color of ink. And the one that I have writes in purple ink, as opposed to the other one that wrote in blue ink. I'll say this one more time, just in case, because I feel like maybe I breezed through it. If I had to recommend a website for purchasing pens that is not gonna super overprice the stuff you're buying, I recommend Jet Pens. I am not sponsored by Jet Pens, but I could be now. No, I like their website, and I'm extra biased because they're like really close to where I live, so I get my pen packages really, really, really soon. I don't know what may be the most affordable for you, but that's where I get my stuff. And as I mentioned at the beginning, when going into the adventure of writing by hand, I ask myself, well, what are the tools that I need, and what am I looking for? I ended up using the Kakuno because it was really comfortable to write with it. Both the pen and the ink required to write with it were both very affordable. And I do not want to understate just how good it is to not be like pressing or applying too much pressure on your hand and the paper. This may seem like a nothing point, but I'm double stressing it because I write a lot. Sometimes, some days, write for hours at a time. 2-3 hours of just nothing but writing by hand. And when I would write using, regular pens, my hand would hurt. It would actually be sore from just putting so much pressure on the paper. And that's not the case with fountain pens. Over the years, I've tried more expensive fountain pens. I've been offered more expensive fountain pens. And I always come back to the Kakuno. It's just so comfortable. It's so simple. And I know someone out there who knows way more about fountain pens is saying that that's a beginner pen and I should try a much more advanced pen. And all I gotta say to that is, this simple, beginner-friendly pen was with me through 5 novels, from 5 beginnings to 5 the end. So, the Kakuno is what I use. It's my pen of choice, and unless a more comfortable, more affordable, and cuter pen shows up, I doubt that it will replace it. Let's move over to Chapter 2, the paper. I've been joking on Patreon that the goal of this video is for you to be able to touch the paper on a notebook and know if it's worth your time. And you may think, Max, that's silly. But it's not silly. It is something you're totally going to be able to do. It's something that I do all the time. And I hope that me talking about using fountain pens is not making you think that the rest of this video is going to be about the most expensive stuffs ever. I don't think an $11 pen is very expensive. I'm not made of money. I always try to save money where I can. So when it comes to paper, sometimes the expensive notebooks you see at your local office wear store may not be the right one for you. And I'll just light this in right now. Hey Max, when I'm at Target, when I am at insert your local department store, I see those fancy moleskin notebooks. Are they worth my time? They would have been worth your time a few years ago. Recently, Moleskine actually changed its paper to a severe downgrade. I guess I should begin with like the higher ups. My favorite paper to write on, my favorite brand of notebooks is, and get ready because Max is about to pronounce a German word, Leuchtturm. Leuchtturm. Leuchtturm? It's German for lighthouse, I believe. It is a brand of German notebooks. And I first found them at my local bookstore, and I ended up really liking them. Caveat, they're really expensive. So guess what? I only own like one book of those because I'm not paying $20+ for a notebook. Yeah, this is gonna be the tone of this next segment. Max is not made of money, and you probably neither are you. If you are though, let me tell you about patreon.com/mkaren. It's fine. We'll get to that segment at the end of the video. See, again, conversational. We're at the coffee shop, okay? I love the clears throat. Leuchtturm. Leuchtturm. Leuchtturm? I watched the video explaining how to pronounce it, and I'm like, Before I knew, let me just clarify. Before I, quotation fingers, knew how to pronounce that word, I would pronounce it Leichtenturn, but that's no. See, that's me. That's me being silly. So don't be silly like me. I really like that brand of notebooks, for a very quick series of reasons. Number one, their paper is fantastic. And if you have the chance to feel what that paper feels like, then right there you will know exactly what you're looking for. But aside from its paper, the construction of their notebooks they're very fine, very solid, very comfortable, and their notebooks all have numbered pages. The entire notebook that you buy has numbered pages on it, and as someone who actually has to manually number their pages in their manuscripts for revision reasons, I am going to let you know, buying a notebook that already has all their pages numbered and has a table of context at the beginning, that right there is real good stuff. And all of the Leuchtturm. I bet I'm getting it super wrong. I would like to formally apologize to all of our German listeners for me butchering your language live on stream. Those notebooks, really good. I really like those. They're pricey, so I only have like one of them, and that book's finished. As I mentioned previously, I'm not made of money. Neither are you. So this leads me to often going to my favorite department store, or my local bookstore, or my local arts and crafts store, and immediately heading to their discounts area. What is on sale today? Also, my local print shop also has notebooks sometimes, and I'm like, okay, let's see what's on sale today. And if you ever see me in real life, you will find me at that section in the department store doing the following thing: grabbing a notebook, opening it, and grabbing a page, placing that page between my index finger and my thumb. Imagine as though playing the world's smallest violin, and I rub my fingers across the paper. That right there If you see someone doing that, it's likely that they are me. Because in the act of wanting to write by hand, I also wanted to get the best paper for that. Because as someone who is going to be filling that entire notebook with words, both sides of the page, every single line, I don't want the following things: ink to bleed through the pages, not too many ghost marks. Those are, by the way, I think I'm the only person in the world who calls them ghost marks, is when you write on a page and then your impression from the pressure of your pen leaves a mark on the following pages. I call those ghost marks, and I think I'm the only weirdo that does. There might be a technical term for that. There might even be a whole Reddit for that now that I think about it, but I call them ghost marks. Now, going back to my previous point, if you want to test, and I know what you're thinking, Max, I'm not gonna be touching paper in my department store. No. See, here's what I want you to do, okay? I want you to go to your department store. I want you to go to the office or like back to school section. I want you to grab one of those notebooks that are the super cheap ones. This is a spiral bound notebook with 50 pages on it. And find one of the ones that have like superheroes on the cover, that have like Spider-Man, because that's who you know. That paper's gonna be real cheap, because it's for kids. I want you to grab that notebook. I want you to open it up. I want you to have your hand, the index and the thumb, like you're playing the world's smallest violin, and rub that paper between your fingers. And I want you to feel that for two different things. First and foremost, the thickness of the paper. How close are your fingers from touching each other just from rubbing the paper, and also the texture of the paper. The less good the paper is, the easier it is for your fingers to glide over it. The better it is, the harder it is, the more texture it's got, and the thicker that it physically, tangibly feels on your fingers. This is exactly why, like, if you compare the new Moleskine notebooks, you can tell that paper is not as good as it used to be. And that sucks. Because I actually kind of like Moleskine notebooks. And I would actually buy a big bunch of them, like at Costco. But the paper is not as good as it used to be. And let me tell you, the price on Moleskine notebooks is not going down, so... Okay, so I know you're thinking, Max, okay, I get it, Max, you're real cheap. No. I have yet to show you the full extent of how cheap I am, because I've developed a technique, a secret move you may call, and it is called going to your local resale shop. I can't think of a better name for them, but I'm thinking of the kinds of shops. If you're on the West Coast in America, I'm thinking of Ross, Marshalls, the kind of shops that sell overstock, that sell the clothes, the bathroom stuffs, perfumes, all the things that all the other companies and stores they have too much of, so they sell it to Marshalls and Ross, and they sell all those things at a mark down. Now I know what you're thinking, Max, what am I going to Marshalls for? Do I need a new pair of shoes real cheap? No! These places often have little sections, usually with children's books, usually with art supplies, and notebooks. You can find yourself real good notebooks that would usually be, I don't know, 15, 20 bucks somewhere else, super marked down to like $5. I recently bought a notebook for like $3, 250 pages, 31 lines of paper, a little bit higher than standard. What did I say at the beginning? In my goal that was writing by hand, I wanted a pen that was comfortable, affordable, and felt good to write in. And I wanted paper that was affordable, didn't fail on me, and was comfortable to write in. So, to me, because I know a lot of people, not me, if you couldn't tell, I don't care a lot about brands. I'm not the kind of person where I want the first draft of my next best-selling novel to have been written on the finest of imported paper. That's not me. I ain't about that lifestyle. All I care about is to get that novel written. Because let me tell you, stories take a long time to be written. So why waste time and why waste money buying like a really fancy notebook? At the end of the day, to me, and the worst part, honestly, the worst part is when you buy, like, when I go, let's say, to my local Staples to continue on naming American stores that all of my overseas viewers and listeners won't know what I'm talking about. You go to Staples, you go to their discount section, and I'm looking and I'm like, okay, what about this journal right here? Okay, 200 pages. Okay, I can work with this. Oh, marked down, originally $25. That's a lot of money for a notebook. I don't know. Maybe the paper's good. And then I do the thing. That notebook, not good. Paper, super cheap. I can just tell from how thin the paper is that ink will bleed through it. And I'm writing with a fountain pen. A fountain pen that is going to release a lot of ink. There's going to be a lot of writing on that piece of paper. I'm going to fill every single line because I'm writing a book here. I'm going to spend a lot of time applying the tip of my pen against that paper. And if it doesn't just flat out bleed, it's gonna break and there's gonna be ghost marks everywhere. Original retail price $24.99. Are you kidding me? The price does not always equate to quality, and I think that that's something that everyone should take to heart. Now, I am realizing that I overlooked mentioning one thing. If the worst feeling paper that you can sense as an example of what the worst paper it is you can buy is, those little 50-page notebooks, spiral bound with a picture of Spider-Man on it, what is the best paper? What is the kind of stuff that feels real good and that you know that you're gonna write a real good novel on it? Well, the upper ceiling, like the very top of that ceiling, the part that you're never gonna hit with a standard commercial notebook, okay? That right there, I want you to go to your local arts supply store. I want you to go to the sketchbook section, and I want you to feel the paper of a sketchbook. That right there, that's the upper ceiling. We're never gonna get there. There will never be an affordable book that has paper this good, that thick, with that texture. Never any bleeding. At least not from an ink. Not from the ink of a fountain pen. Never any ghost marks. That stuff is likely never going to happen. But that right there is the upper ceiling. You want something along the middle. Not so thin that you can literally see through it, in the case of those really cheap back-to-school notebooks. And, you don't want sketchbook paper. Something along the middle. And it's hard to describe it because I feel like you need to feel it. Because sometimes you will find that notebooks that are dirt cheap have really good paper. I actually remember finding a very specific type of composition notebooks. Okay, now get ready because this is a crazy story. A specific brand of composition notebooks. And within that subset, a specific region that the notebooks were made at. If you look at the back of the notebook, it tells you manufactured in blank. I ended up finding that a particular country that made certain notebooks made them with better paper. And we're talking about composition notebooks. You know what those look like in America? They're the ones that are black and white with a marbled pattern. We're talking about like $3 a pop with good paper on it. Yeah, I bought a bunch of those. Absolutely. But that's something you have to try on your own. It's something you have to be on the lookout for. And I know. If you're made of money, you don't care. But if you're made of money, I would like to tell you about patreon.com/mkaren. No. But it's likely you're not made of money. I mean, I'm not made of money. And I know someone out there thinks that it's very funny, and I know you're very clever, that I spent $11 on a pen, but I don't want to spend a lot of money on a notebook. But to me, I feel that's because, like, the pen is going to be there, and the pen is going to kind of serve a longer purpose. A notebook, not so much. And because notebooks, a page doesn't particularly equate to 1 page of writing. Even if you buy a 250-page notebook, that actually won't equate to 250 pages. So you're probably going to need more than one. So it's a sort of thing where, like, it's not the same value. And listen, I'm not made of money. If I can save money and still get good paper, guess what? I'm going to take that deal. And I want you to take that deal as well. Go out there, be a weirdo like me, and go feel what the paper's like. Sometimes you'll find that book on sale, really marked down, and you think to yourself, it's so marked down, it can't be good. Feel the paper. It might just be worth that $3.99. Okay? Okay. What a weird segment. Again, coffee shop, okay? Because I'm realizing now, I'm halfway through the video and I'm realizing, wow, this is a really, really silly conversation. I want you guys to be a weirdo, okay? Go out there and just feel that paper. Just rub it against your skin, you know? Just don't do that. Don't do that. I didn't tell you to do that. That was facetious. Don't do that. I love that this video has switched completely tonally. Tonal dissonance. Welcome. Welcome back to Tonal Dissonance. This is Omakase, and I am M. Karen. And we're going to be talking about the last segment of today's podcast, the tools. The additional analog tools that I want to recommend to you, dear writerly friend, if you wish to begin a journey of writing by hand. And the first one comes from the heart, because I didn't only do a lot of writing by hand. Guess what? I did a lot of writing by hand at coffee shops, because I needed to get out of the office. I needed to completely change my environment, so I walked to my local coffee shop, and I would buy a coffee and a pastry, and I would sit at a table, and I would write. But when you're moving like that, and you're moving around, you can't bring your whole desk with you. And I couldn't bring everything with me. And the question stands, Max, do you have a favorite pencil case? I actually do. It's a really weird Japanese one, but I'm gonna tell you the real truth right now, okay? I'm gonna tell you the realest truth. I had a weird, but also really cute Japanese pencil case that I basically never properly used. And what I mean by properly used is that it's not that I couldn't figure out where the pens went. Trust me, I figured that out. The thing is that I would always carry way more tools than I actually needed. And you know me, I'm a person all about minimalism. And I realized, wow, I really don't need to carry markers with me. And I really don't need to carry a ruler with me. And I really don't need a pencil with me. Why am I carrying a pencil? And so the answer to the first question, what's my favorite pencil case? It turns out that my favorite pencil case is no pencil case at all. I just carry with me my Kakuno pen, which I'm actually wielding right now. I'm holding in my hand. You can't see it because this is all audio, but trust me, I'm holding it in my hand. One Kakuno pen, the notebook that I'm working on, an item that I will be talking about in one of the next points, and a backup cartridge. That is all. That's all I carry with me. Why? Because the less that you carry with you, the easier it is to carry your writing setup. The easier it is to realize, well, I'm waiting at the airport, I've got 20 minutes. Guess what? I think I'm going to spend 20 minutes just writing some ideas. Definitely better than spending 20 minutes on your phone. Am I right? With a lighter, more mobile setup, you can do what you want to do in more places. That's why no pencil case is, unfortunately, the best pencil case. Talking about weird tools, I carry with me a pen, backup cartridge, and the last thing, and this here is going to be the weirdest thing, okay? Are you ready? Are you ready? Okay. I carry a glove. One glove. No, not because I have a fascination with 1980s Michael Jackson. That's not it. I have a glove because, as anyone out there who uses a drawing tablet can attest, friction between the bottom of your hand or the bottom of your palm against the paper is gonna become a problem after a little while. And yes, you're right. There are products you can buy. There are fancy gloves you can buy on websites. I'm not made of money, and I've definitely have a few loose gloves in one of my drawers. So what I did, I want you to hold out your hand so that you're looking at the back of your dominant hand, okay? And I want you to draw a line. No, an imaginary line. Put away the marker. Draw an imaginary line from the nook between your index and middle finger, the little nook between the fingers and the knuckles. Draw that line all the way down to that little nook between the very, very base of your thumb and your wrist. That line right there, okay? Grab a glove you don't care for and cut that line. You cut a line through that glove that you don't care for anymore, so that your pinky, your ring finger, and your middle finger are both still covered by the glove, while your index and your thumb are free. This, oh, you may also want the middle finger if you want, but I just like my index on my thumb. And when you sit down to write, you put on that glove, and what that achieves is that there is no friction between your hand and the paper, and it's also kind of comfortable. And also no ink stains on your hand. It's very nice. Anyone out there who does digital drawing can tell you putting on a little glove helps a lot, because your hand is going to be rubbing up against that surface, whether it is a drawing tablet or a piece of paper, and that's gonna not only hurt after a while, but it's just generally inconvenient. And yes, you can buy a $15 glove on the internet just for writing by hand, or you could just make use of one of those old gloves you haven't used in forever. And everybody's got at least one of those in their drawer, so that's what I did, and that's what I carry with me. Now I know you're thinking, Max, this here is the weirdest piece of advice I've ever given. Wear a glove when you're writing? A glove you had to cut parts of it out? I know, but trust me, there is a very clear division between my time period handwriting before and after wearing a little glove like this. The lack of friction is crazy. You actually, and thanks to a fountain pen, you really do feel like you're gliding across the entire page, just filling that with words and moving at lightning speed. It feels good. Also, no friction and no stains in your hands. Feels good. I recommend attempting something weird like that. The last little piece of advice that I want to slide in here, and I know that I'm going long, I apologize. I want to just slide this in there for anyone out there who is interested in a little extra something. The last analog tool, though there's a digital alternative that I recommend you carry with you when you're writing, especially if you're at home. If you're not at home, try the digital alternative. A kitchen timer. If you are familiar with something like the Pomodoro method, then you understand the value of timing yourself. Not so much to see how fast you can get something done, but rather to value time. Time is the one resource that we only have so much of. Everybody's got 24 hours in the day, and everybody's got responsibilities. If you've got kids, if you've got school, if you've got a job, if you've got all three, then your time is very, very, very limited. And there isn't something you can do about that, you know? You can't just give up the kids. What we can do, though, is make the most out of our time. And that's why I recommend getting yourself a kitchen timer, or a timer app on your phone, or just the default one that you have on your phone. And when you sit down to write, whether it is by hand or typing, if you think to yourselves, I have 10 minutes now to write, then turn back the timer and get writing. Someone out there might not enjoy having that play in the background of the rest of the podcast, so I'm just going to leave it on the other side of the room. A mechanical Timer is nice because it has physical presence in the world and you can hear it go tick tock, tick tock. But also, just an app on your phone is good. If you are like me and you're like, I am too lazy to do X or Y, I want to remind you that most phones, especially the latest ones, you can just give voice commands to whatever your navigator system is. Like, for instance, if you happen to have an iPhone and you have Siri, all you have to say is, "Hey Siri, timer, 10 minutes."
Your timer is set for 10 minutes.
It's as easy as that. I think your phone has to be plugged in for that to happen, but I mean, like, you can also just press the home button and just tell Siri what you want. It helps. It helps to have that mental boundary. It helps to just say, these 10 minutes are for me and the writing. And sometimes there will be distractions. We can't help that. Because we all know life is amazing at getting in the way. But that's okay. What matters is not that things go perfectly every time. What matters is that we show up every time. No matter how many times someone knocks at our door when we're focused, no matter how many times something comes up when we want to have a day for writing, it doesn't matter how many times things go wrong. All that matters is that you show up to the writing for the days when everything goes right. And this kind of brings me back to the beginning of it all. And I know this was a very casual podcast, and I hope you liked it. I hope you liked my silly personal experience with, pen and paper. And the absolute tonal dissonance between the beginning and the ending of this video. But I also want to bring something up. Something that is very important. And it comes back to the idea of what I said. What do you need to achieve a task? What are the tools that can help you be the most effective and successful at what you want to do? And the thing that I want to stress, and the thing that I hope I got across through my cheapness, is that the tools, a fancy pen, a $120 fountain pen, and honestly overpriced Moleskine notebooks, those will not give you the inspiration to write. They might help you get into the mood. They might help you feel more affirmed that you can do this. But those are not replacements. They're not gonna fix everything. Writing is scary. And even if you've written several novels, it's still scary. That fear never really goes away. And that's not a bad thing. I'm not saying that to discourage you. I'm saying that to remind you that the struggle between you and the blank page, that's a struggle that every writer deals with. Even the writers that you look up to. Every day is a battle against the blank page. Sometimes it wins. But the thing that matters is that every day, when the fight begins, you show up and you fight on word by word. Words into sentences, sentences into paragraphs, paragraphs into chapters, and chapters into novels. You will not write a book in one day. You won't write it by hand, and you're certainly not going to type it. So focus on every single day and every single battle. If writing by hand can inspire you to push through, then go out and do it. But don't use them as an excuse to procrastinate, as an excuse to putting it away. Don't say, well, I gotta wait for my new pen to arrive in the mail, so I can't start writing. Just start. Writing will always be at its most scary right before you start writing. So that's why, as part of my little ritual every time, I make sure that the time between me sitting down and actually putting pen to paper or fingers to keyboard is the shortest it can be. To deter any last-second decision to go to something else, and to make sure that I did not try to procrastinate, and to make sure that the words begin to flow. Because once you get one word going, and you know that that little timer is going on the side, you've only got so much time to work on your passion. So make the most of it, okay? Okay. I am now feeling self-conscious about my use of the word tonal, or the term tonal dissonance in the podcast. Okay, well, keep an eye out for Max from the future. If I made a mistake, we will all hear of Max from the future showing up to crash my party. But anyhow, hi there. I hope that you enjoyed this ridiculous podcast. I hope that you got some advice there. I hope that you will go on to go to many bookstores and department stores and feel the difference between good paper and bad paper. But above all, I hope that you take some time, that you wind back the timer and you sit down to write. Your novels are not going to write themselves, whether it is by hand or through a keyboard. If again you're going through something like what I was going through, where my anxiety was so bad and I was unable to type on a keyboard and writing by hand helped me, then give it a try. It's what helped me, and that's the only advice I can give you. It may not be the most effective, but I hope that today, if anything, I have shown you another point of view. Okay? And I want to say that this workshop here is brought to you thanks to my patrons. They are the lovely people who are making this possible, and if you're interested, you can pledge $1 and vote on the poll for next month's workshop and get to watch it, listen to it a month before it goes live to everyone else. And also, for $1 a month, you get a shout out among with all of those other cool perks and more. I'm going to slide over to the end of the video, also known as the end of the video club, where we stay until the end of the video. I'm going to be giving everybody a shout out, so you're free to leave if you want. I mean, you're free to leave a like. I'm doing finger guns, you can't see me, but I'm doing finger guns. Alright, and so, let us formally begin the silly part of the video where I give a shout out to every single one of my patrons. No edits. Welcome back to the No Edits Club, also known as the end of the video club, where I give everybody a shout out and my headphones go off for 1 second. Okay, well that's not weird at all. Has the whole podcast just ceased to exist? You see, I'm in the past, recording this podcast. Max from the future, which will be Max from the past from your point of view, will be editing this. And I'm slightly terrified that this is the point in which the recording just stops, because computers just do that sometimes. But with that heart attack out of the way, let's advance. No edits, shoutouts, let's go! A big thank you to the following lovely people who are pledging their hard-earned money to me and my content. A. Howard, Atalak, Alistair Baywood, Alisa Dudley, Amanda Stevens, Amelia, Amy Palmer, Angela, Aniexo Hoshi, Biting the Sun. Okay, now real talk. Backing up. I said Biting the Sun like it's a character in a fighting game. Biting the Sun! What's that? You want me to keep that? Okay, I'll keep that. Blarg! Brenda C.E. Richards versus Caitlin and the other Caitlin, Cannibal Lily. Carriette Eccleston, Kathy Lindsay, Lishadra, Christiane, Christine Dennis, Kristen Lofton. That right there felt very good. That felt like an actual shouting of a character in a fighting game. Citro, Clem Pastor, Dwayne Jackson. I'm doing hand motions now. Eleanor, Arasos, Gilbert Gaudreau, Heather Tasker, Irina Phoenix. Ooh, that's nice. Oh, that felt nice. I'm getting the little tingles on my face. I'm like, oh, that was, I believe the kids call it, that was hype. Oh no, French names. Isabella Doucette, Janosch Hebatsky, Jaytana Kirkwood, Jeffrey James Williams, Joe, Juan Nunes, K.M. Anderson, Kameshwar Rao Shaluri, Kaylee. I feel like my voice died halfway there. Let me try that again. Kaylee, Kiel, Kid Lee. I'm throwing punches now. Lacey, Lear Killo, MT Locatelli. MT Locatelli versus Mark Maruska. Mary Foster Smith joins the fight. Nicole Grissom, Nicolay, Noam Sahar. In my head, I'm just hearing like character select themes. Pick your fighter. Novels and Tones. Pablo, Pat Eichson, Polly Craftool. Although my meat just smacking my desk suddenly. Now that's how you know I'm actually throwing punches and doing poses. Raquel Fernandez, Roa, Shimmer Tails. Sorry, I forgot to scroll. I'm almost done. Soul Muse. Oh, boss character Soul Muse shows up. There you go. You have to beat the whole story mode to unlock Soul Muse. Soul Muse. No. You know what? Water break. Soul Muse. No. Not deep enough. Soul Muse. That felt more on brand, I was thinking. Like, if this actually was a fighting game. Wow, that's a lot of characters for a fighting game. Boss character? Soul Muse would be the boss character. Yeah, I feel that. With a character like Soul Muse? I feel it. Sylvia Leitilla, Synexia, Thomas Baker, Wendy Christopher. Man, welcome back to Max Leaks the full character list for Smash Bros. Ultimate. Hi guys, how y'all doing? I had a follow-up joke to that joke, but then I realized that I missed my timing. Does that ever happen to you? Do you ever do the thing where you're talking to someone and you're doing the awful thing where you're not listening to what they're saying? You have tuned out. You're not listening to what they're saying. And you're just waiting for your turn to talk. That right there is the worst thing. That's the worst thing. Don't do that. Don't do that, even though we're talking about relatable things. Hashtag relatable things. Do you ever just come up with a really good joke? And you're like, alright, I'm gonna wait for a pause in the conversation so I can slide in my joke. There's still enough time. And the conversation, like, turns into somewhere else. And you're like, no, but I had a joke. What? None of you have ever dealt with that? That is a Max-only thing? Well, that's fine. Listen, it's the end of the video. Everybody's gone. The party's over, okay? This is the part in which I just I get to take off the limiters. I take off all of my weighted armor, and I get to finally be myself. That's not true. That's not true. I say that in this sort of like Max way, where I'm like, oh man, everybody thinks I'm so serious. But then I know, cause y'all know. That it's like, Max, you are not serious at all. I can get serious. But I'm a relatively silly person, and I love writing. And I love talking about writing. And I hope that today's video was insightful in a weird way. But if anything, I hope that I was nice company for the last hour or so. Okay? You go out there, you do your thing. I'm gonna do my thing. I'm gonna keep shouting names like it's a fighting game. That's gonna come back for next week's podcast. Though from your point of view, it's taking place in the past. Listen, I am a voice coming out of a speaker in your computer / iPod. I'm trapped in my own space-time continuum, okay? So you mind your space-time continuum business, and I'm gonna go do my thing. Take care. Drink lots of water. Sleeping 8 hours a night should be the goal, but I mean, life's tough, time's limited. So you know what? Live fast, love hard, and write like the devil's chasing you.